Do you know that there is a research scientist that has as a partner a cat? Yes, you heard well. His partner is a cat. Well, if you're curious enough to know this story, watch this video. Here's how it goes. In 1975, Jack Hetherington, a physicist at Michigan State University, wrote a scientific paper on low-temperature physics. Back then, many journals had a strict policy that research papers should use plural pronouns like we instead of I, even for single authors. Hetherington had already typed up the entire manuscript, on a typewriter, no easy backspace, and a colleague pointed out that because he had written we throughout the paper, the journal might reject it unless there were two authors. Instead of retyping the whole thing, Hetherington decided to add a co-author, his cat, Chester. To give him a more scientific-sounding name, Chester appeared as F.D.C. Willard on the paper. F.D.C. stood for Felis Domesticus Chester. Willard was Chester's father's name. The paper was published in physical review letters under both names. Chester thus became a published co-author cat in physics literature. Later, Hetherington even co-authored another paper solely under F.D.C. Willard's name, which was published in French in La Recherche. It became a well-loved piece of academic folklore, and Chester is still remembered as one of the most famous feline scientists. If you're fond of cats, you must have been purring with delight after watching this video. But we know you're a curious soul, so you must also be wondering why the journal had such a strange rule. That's a great question, but we're afraid we don't have an answer. Perhaps they wanted to encourage collaboration, or maybe they just didn't like the sound of singular I's. Whatever the reason, by 1980, the journal had changed their policy, so Chester's scientific career was fairly brief. Nevertheless, he managed to make a lasting impression on the world of academia. Who knows? Maybe he inspired some young felines to pursue their own research, or at least gave them something to put on their CVs. And who knows? Maybe the journal will change their mind again and allow Chester to be reinstated as a full co-author on Dr. Hetherington's papers. After all, it's not every day that you come across a cat who can claim to be a published scientist. At first glance, this might seem like a rather obscure piece of trivia, but we think there's more to it than meets the eye. We live in a world where everything is becoming increasingly specialized. It seems that no matter what you're interested in, there's always someone out there who knows more about it than you do. This can be a good thing, of course. After all, it means that there are people who are experts at doing certain things and can help us to solve complex problems. However, it can also be a bad thing. For example, when everyone is so caught up in their own little silos that they forget to communicate with each other. This can lead to missed opportunities and a failure to see the big picture. It's important to remember that even if you're not an expert at something, that doesn't mean you know nothing about it. So don't be afraid to speak up and share your thoughts, even if you're not 100% sure they're correct. You never know. You might just have the insight that everyone's been missing. The story of Chester the cat reminds us of this. Here was a cat who wasn't a scientist, but through a stroke of luck, he found himself credited with authorship on two important papers. Of course, he didn't actually do any work on the papers, but he did provide some valuable insight into the research process. Namely, he reminded Dr. Hetherington and his colleagues that it's important to take a step back and look at the big picture. After all, science isn't just about solving equations and running experiments. It's about understanding the world around us and our place in it. Sometimes we get so caught up in the details that we lose sight of the bigger picture. And that's where Chester's contribution to science lies. He was a furry little reminder that helped these scientists see the forest for the trees. But Chester's story also has a more personal lesson for us. Sometimes in life we find ourselves in situations where we're not quite sure what to do. We feel like we're out of our depth and that we don't belong. That's how Chester must have felt when he found himself on the author list of these important papers. But instead of running away from his newfound responsibilities, Chester took them on with grace and dignity. He didn't try to pretend that he was a scientist, but he didn't shy away from the opportunity to learn and grow either. And in doing so, he taught these researchers a valuable lesson about courage and resilience. They learned that sometimes when life gives us lemons, we just have to make lemonade. We think that Chester's story is a great example of how animals can teach us valuable lessons. They may not be able to talk or read our minds, but they are experts at living in the moment and following their instincts. And sometimes that's exactly what we need to be reminded of. In Chester's case, he helped these scientists become better at what they did and braver in the face of challenges. And who knows, maybe he even enjoyed a little bit of the limelight. After all, not every cat gets to be a scientist, no matter how smart they are. So next time you're feeling a little lost or unsure of yourself, think of Chester the cat and the valuable lessons he has to teach us. And if you want to learn more about animals and the amazing things they can do, be sure to stay tuned for more videos. We'll be sure to keep you purring with delight. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. We would love to have you join our community of curious learners. Thanks for watching. See you next time.